maker of Tinder, Hinge, sued over addictive dating apps that put profits over love. Like I'm actually very, very overwhelmed. I'm trying not to get emotional on TikTok, but like, do you understand how huge that is?
Is that lady okay? I don't think so, and we're going to dig into it today. I'm Hannah Cox with BASEDPolitics. Welcome back to my show, Hannah Explains It All, where every week I help you understand what's happening around you and the policy overlaps. If you like this show, don't forget to check out others in the series, like the video, leave me a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Today, we're talking about a recent lawsuit that was filed against the owners of online dating sites like Tinder and Hinge. As you can see from my intro video, many people on TikTok are very excited about this, and the general premise seems to be that these companies have the audacity to be in the business of making money, and they might even care more about making money than finding you the love of your life. I know, the audacity. Who would have guessed? This is according to reporting by NPR covering the lawsuit. They say the popular dating apps Tinder, Hinge, and The League hook users with the promise of seemingly endless romantic matches in order to push people to pay money to continue their compulsive behavior, according to a federal lawsuit filed in San Francisco on Wednesday. This was reporting from February, by the way. The suit, brought by 6 plaintiffs in states including New York, California, and Florida, argues that dating app parent company Match Group gamifies the services to, quote, transform users into gamblers locked in a search for psychological rewards that Match makes elusive on purpose. While Hinge's advertising slogan boasts that it is, quote, designed to be deleted, the lawsuit claims Match Group's dating apps are actually designed to turn users into addicts who do not find true love and instead keep purchasing subscriptions and other paid perks to keep the publicly traded company's revenue flowing. They go on to say that the complaint, which is seeking class action status, claims Match Group has violated state and federal consumer protection, false advertising, and defective design laws. The lawsuit says, harnessing powerful technologies and hidden algorithms, Match intentionally designs the platforms with addictive game-like design features, which lock users into a perpetually pay-to-play loop that prioritizes corporate profits over its marketing promises and customers' relationship goals, lawyers for the plaintiffs wrote in the lawsuit. So I have a problem with the premise of this lawsuit right out the gate. I firmly think that progressives, or at least progressive ideology, is firmly rooted in naivete. These people view the world like a 5-6-year-old child would, and they constantly show it on a number of fronts, but especially when it comes to issues like this. Yes, these companies have a dominant goal of making money. Why would you think that it would be anything else? Why would anybody just have this like obsessive altruistic need to find you the love of their life and not get paid for it? Why would they go through the burden of creating an app, getting funding to build it out, marketing it, launching it, running it, if it were not to ultimately make money in the process? Like, honestly, it would be really creepy if somebody did do all of that just because they really wanted everybody to like meet their perfect somebody and live happily ever after. That's weird. That's not how people think. Instead, the makers of the app saw a need in society, and probably there was like some altruism to that. People really need partners. They're lonely without partners. People are happier when they're in family structures. And they also saw a way that they could make money in providing a service that meets that need. That is what we call mutually beneficial. And this is actually what makes capitalism great. Their whole premise is that these are like greedy capitalists who own these companies, and all they care about is keeping you hooked to their dating apps and not actually getting you the love of your life so you can get off of them. But in reality, without capitalism, you wouldn't have these services. The alternative would be that needs do not get met, or that you have to enslave somebody and force them to meet the needs you have. Instead, somebody or capitalism says, hey, there's this need somebody has. I personally have the skill set where I could help them meet their need, and I could make money and provide myself with a good living and move up in life in the process. It's not greed to have self-interest. It's actually just rational, logical behavior. When you get mad at people for having rational, logical behavior, it is because you are irrational. Again, you have a childlike mentality. So, needless to say, I am not sympathetic to their lawsuit immediately. But to actually try to address some of their claims they have within it, they also try to make the point that these apps are addictive in nature. This again seems like kind of a nothing burger. There are many services and goods you can buy that are addictive. It is not against the law to sell addicting products. If it were, you'd have to say goodbye to things like alcohol, tobacco, many medications, juice cleanses, gambling, porn, certainly sugar. I mean, definitely sugar would have to go. Most of the food you eat would be like out of here. Life is about trade-offs, and adults are capable at looking at something and saying, is the trade-off I'm going to make for enjoying this product or this service worth it? You have freedom, you have free will, and you have more information at your fingertips than literally any other human has in the history of the world. So you can do your research and you can evaluate whether or not a product or a service is a good idea for you or if the trade-off is worth it. If you think apps are bad for you, you think they're addicting, you think they're not actually helping you find a mate, then don't use them. But what I tend to find in politics in general, certainly not just tied to this one small issue, is that there are a ton of adults out there who simply do not want to be adults. They don't want freedom. They don't want to have to take self-responsibility. They don't want to have to do the work to make good choices. And so instead, they look for some kind of paternal figure to do it for them. And in often cases, that is the government. And because they don't trust themselves, they're so scared of actually taking personal responsibility and exercising their freedom and making good choices on their own. They would rather hand over their freedom and have things banned or have them regulated to death so that they don't have to think through things. The burden doesn't have to be on them. And because they think that they aren't capable of doing those things and they want to outsource their freedom to some other entity, they also want to take away your freedom. And they also want to make sure that you don't have the same ability to exercise those rights and freedoms because they think if they're not capable of doing it, neither are you. Again, they're just walking children in adult bodies. So when I first came across the intro video, which I'm about to roll a little bit more of, I started looking into this a bit more. And of course, needless to say, there are endless complaints online that people have about these online dating websites. But to be fair, you don't have to like a product. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a lawsuit that is alleging these companies should not be able to operate as they currently are, and even saying that they need to pay out damages to people who have been so harmed by them. So that merits the question, is it true? Are these companies actually doing something that's malicious? Are they actually that addictive in nature? Are they scheming against you to block the love of your life from your fingertips and make sure you're trapped in some kind of like swiping hell for the rest of your days? Let's roll a little bit more of the video because this lady clearly thinks that that is the case.
The validation that there's an actual federal lawsuit filed in San Francisco on Wednesday that's talking about what I have been talking about and fighting about for 5 fucking years. They do not want you to fall in love. They want your money. And they don't care what happens to you as a result. I don't know what the fuck will happen with this lawsuit. I have no idea. I used to be a lawyer. I'm well aware that this is just a fucking article on NPR. I get that, but it's a lawsuit that's been filed. And that is so fucking huge to me. The suit, brought by 6 plaintiffs in states including New York, California, and Florida, argues that dating app parent company Match Group gamifies the services to transform users into gamblers locked in a search for psychological rewards that Match makes elusive on purpose. Assholes. It is really hard to do the work that I do and to just be referenced as somebody who doesn't believe in love or who's jaded or who doesn't want you to find partnership, which I've never said. I always want people to find love and to have it and to enjoy company of other people. I want that for myself too. But dating apps have been destroying single people on purpose for profit. And
for the record, I don't know what the backstory is here. This lady is clearly not stable. I don't know if she got ghosted one too many times off these apps or what. She's literally crying at the news that this lawsuit has been filed. And she even acknowledges it's just the lawsuit. She seems to think that's bigger than it is. Anybody can file a lawsuit. It could get thrown out. It doesn't even mean it's advancing. I don't really understand her sentiments or why she's so worked up, but I do think her premise is insane. She's saying that they are abusing single people. They're ruining single people. They're damaging them. These are so addictive in nature. It's she's literally acting like people are betting their life savings on these apps and losing everything. I'm going to let her finish and then we'll discuss more.
This is the first time I've seen something done about it. I'm just going to read you one more paragraph and then I'm going to go away. I promise. While Hinge's advertising slogan boasts that it is designed to be deleted, the lawsuit claims Match Group's dating apps are really designed to turn users into addicts who do not find true love and instead keep purchasing subscriptions and other paid perks to keep the publicly traded company's revenue flowing. They're seeking class action status. This is what I wanted. It is not you. It was never you. Anyone who is sad and alone and frustrated and swiping their adulthood away. I've always said it was not you, and this is the first time that something significant and real has agreed. This is the best Valentine's Day gift I have ever gotten in my entire life. Go read it.
She says this is the best Valentine's Day gift she's ever gotten in her whole life. I think it might be the only one. This is not normal. She's so validated by this. This is just a bunch of people who are angry like she is filing a lawsuit. It's not validating to you that other people are mad about these apps and feel wronged by them, but it doesn't mean that any of you are correct in that assessment. First and foremost, and because I feel like this must be repeated ad nauseum, these sites are free to use. You can use pretty much all of them for free. Yes, they do have additional features you can pay for that provide a allegedly better experience, and you can do that, but you're not being harmed by somebody giving you a free product and you choosing to use it, and you're not being harmed if they have a better version of that free product that you can pay to use and you're choosing not to pay that. You're not a victim here. That doesn't make any sense. It's not like people are being forced into online dating. It's not like you don't have other options for meeting people. It is a choice that you can make to enter onto these apps. Are they addicting? In my experience, no. In my experience, most people love to delete these apps. They can't wait to delete them. The going joke is Hinge says it's meant to be deleted, and people always say, yeah, it's meant to be deleted and then re-downloaded and re-downloaded and re-downloaded again. Because most of the time when people have met somebody, they get rid of it, and if it doesn't work out, they go right back to the apps. Or a lot of times people get fed up looking at them and they delete the app, they get sick of it, and they go try something else, and then they realize it's actually a lot easier to meet people online, and they go back. But either way, nobody's forcing you to do this. They're not usurping all your other options for meeting a partner. It is just one service on the market you can opt into using. And if it isn't working for you and it's making you mentally unwell, as it seems to be for this lady, just stop using it. Just stop. But the reality is, it's a lot harder to meet people offline. You simply encounter fewer people in your day-to-day. That's becoming increasingly true as people work from home, as social circles shrink, as people move away from their families. People are less involved in church, less involved in extracurricular activities as they age. So other than some guy approaching you in a grocery store, which, by the way, not once has ever happened to me. Not once. But aside from those kind of encounters, you're not going to have too many options on a week-to-week basis. If you're single and you're looking to date and meet somebody, there's probably not really any real scenario where you'd have more than one date a week at best without online dating. So it's going to take you a lot more time to find somebody who's a good match. You're going to have to sift through people who probably are not as optimal of matches for you. It's just a much bigger gamble to hope that you happen to bump into or have a secondary connection to the exact right person for you. But again, if you think that that's a better way to meet people, then go forth, pursue that. But in reality, the apps are actually working for a whole lot of people. Full disclosure, I met my fiance on an app. I would say out of my social circle, at least 50% of my people I know, people in my apparatus, have met their spouses on dating apps. Not just partners to date, they are married to people that they met on dating apps. That's anecdotal, of course, so I wanted to see if it's backed up by studies, and looks like it is. According to Stanford News, meeting online has become the most popular way U.S. couples connect, and the Longview News Journal reported that nearly 45% of survey respondents reported online dating apps to be the place where they met people to date, which was followed by 33% meeting through a friend, nearly 32% at concerts or festivals, and almost 27% on social media, which I would say is still online dating. Some of the least reported spots to meet someone to date included bars, almost 20%, and grocery stores, over 9%. So somebody's approaching somebody in grocery stores. It does happen, I guess. And they said public transport came in last, only 5% met somebody on a subway, which if you've ever been on a subway, that tracks. So not only is online dating working for a whole lot of people, I have a personal hypothesis, and it is still probably too early in this experiment to say for sure. But my belief is that when we look at this over the next couple of decades, you will find that people who met online or through social media sites or online dating sites, that they have lower divorce rates. And I have a couple things to back me up on that. One, you're getting to be far more particular about who you ultimately marry. Again, back in the day, you just didn't have that many options. If you met somebody through your sister or you met somebody you worked with and they were decently attractive and you guys got along and you were interested and they were interested, like you probably just got married. You really weren't able to be as picky or to really look for people who had your exact values, your exact outlook on life, people who wanted the exact same things as you. Thanks to online dating, you are able to be a lot more picky. Now, the red pill will often critique this for women and say they're too picky. They only look at men who are like 6 foot tall, make 6 figures. And there's absolutely no actual evidence to back them up. The one study they point to was debunked over and over and over. It was like the smallest sample size in history ever. And it wasn't even a study. I think they like surveyed like a handful of people on these apps. But anyways, my point being, it's okay for people to be really picky. It's actually a good thing. That means when you do settle down, you probably have found somebody who really is a good compatible match. Secondarily, you're getting to kind of see what the field is like before you get married. Now, I think for a lot of men, but also many women who marry young, who don't have a lot of dating experience, there tends to be some like grass is greener mentality, just some like, I don't know, they get kind of restless, they're unhappy with their lives, they start wondering like what would things be like with somebody else. But listen, when you've been on online dating websites for a year or two, you know that the grass is not greener, that most people are crap. And I think you're going to be a lot more satisfied with your person when you do find them. And I actually did find a little bit of research to back up my hypothesis. According to researchers at the University of Essex and the University of Vienna, married couples who met through online dating apps are less likely to end their relationships than are people who met through traditional means. In a study of 19,131 couples who met online and married, only 7% got divorced as compared to the US divorce rate of 40 to 50%. I, as a whole, think it's good to be pickier. I am really glad I did not end up married to any of the people I dated before my now fiance, who, by the way, I all met in person or through work. And yet they were not as good of a match for me because I was not able to be as picky. I wasn't able to select for certain things that mattered the most to me. I was just meeting people who I happened to be around. And because I didn't get engaged till I'm 36, I have a good idea of what else is out there. And trust me when I say I don't want it. I don't want it. I will never be tempted to it. Like, there's no shot. Not only is my hypothesis looking like it could hold some weight, though, I also found evidence that there are other positive attributes associated with online dating. Researchers also found that online dating opens people up to a much more diverse dating pool and may increase the number of interracial marriages. That obviously could lead to a decrease in racism and move toward increased multiculturalism. I think that's a huge positive. I think one of the biggest problems we have in society, and I actually talk about this ad nauseum, like I'm even sick of bringing it up. I bring it up so much, but I can't stop because it's so important, is the fact that Americans are completely segregated in what I call sociological bubbles. You are so unlikely to know people who are different from you on like 10 different levels. It's scary. It's scary how like in a bubble you are and you don't know. Like if you have a college degree, you probably don't know other adults who don't have a college degree. If you are Catholic, you probably don't know people who aren't Catholic. If you are an immigrant, you probably don't know people who aren't immigrants, at least not in like meaningful ways, right? You might pass them. They might be like your postman, something like that, but you are not like intimately in a relationship with them, having them in your home, having actual community with them. You are so isolated. And because of that, we actually lead these like really sad kind of lives where we don't know about other people's experiences. We don't know about other ways of life. And it makes us very one-dimensional. It makes us much less nuanced. It makes us much more prone to like stereotyping and racism and all these other negative things that can come about. So I love this. I love that dating online enables you to get outside your bubble and to meet people who could be a really great match for you, but who you would never encounter. I would never have encountered my fiance outside of online dating. He lived like 20 minutes from me in Atlanta, which I know doesn't sound like much, but in big cities, like, you know, that mileage difference, like I would never have bumped into him in a million years. The only reason he was even on my dating profile is because he works in another neighborhood. I guess I'll keep that private for own privacy sake. But he works in a neighborhood that was closer to my neighborhood. And so he showed up on my online dating. But we would never have crossed paths. We had entirely different backgrounds. And I'm not going to lie, at times that has made our relationship a little bit harder because we didn't have the exact same backgrounds. We didn't have the exact same views on things. We had not had the same life experiences. But ultimately, I think that's one of the things that makes our relationship really rich and wonderful. And I learn from him all the time, and he's learned from me, and we challenge each other, and he's opened me up to this whole other world that he is from and vice versa. And I really just think as a whole, that is something that is going to make your life richer and more beautiful and just more exciting. Now, to be clear, I am not trying to say there are no downsides to online dating. Of course there are. But again, trade-offs, people, trade-offs. You have to pick and choose what downsides are worth it for you. Yes, on dating apps, people have more options. That means they probably are more likely to keep playing the field, keep swiping, see what else is out there, and not just settle for you. And I really think that's where a lot of the complaints come from. People are like, well, they just have too many options. There's too many fish in the sea. That's not a problem when the right person lands on you. It's just not, unless they're a player and you don't really want to be with that kind of person anyways. But somebody having a lot of options ultimately is a good thing, because when they do pick you, they're really picking you. They're not just settling for you. Yes, there are some perpetually single people, recently divorced people, player type people on these apps. That's where discernment comes in. You have to learn how to filter out for those people. Another complaint that I hear brought up all the time is that looks are overly important online. And that's probably true, because if you meet somebody in person, they might be really funny. You might just have great chemistry with them. Maybe have a really good conversation. You bond over mutual interests. You don't have any of that working for you when you're doing online dating. People really do have to go largely based off your looks. I hate to break it to people, but looks just do matter. They matter offline. They do matter more online. That's just a fact of nature. People want to be attracted to the person they're going to date. Fortunately for all of us, there's a lot of things you can do to make yourself more attractive. And I do not believe, I've seen literally zero evidence of this in the wild, that the vast majority of men or women are so picky about looks that you could not be somewhat in their ballpark, right? Like, let's say you're like drastically outmatched, then like, yeah, I mean, if you're somebody who's not in super great shape, not very fit, you're not somebody who does a lot for your appearance, like probably don't swipe right on the guy with 6-pack abs who works out every day. Like, be realistic. But there are still plenty of people that you would be attracted to and that would find you attractive. This is true in the wild. It's more true online. But again, people have to go off the information that they have. So if you're not somebody who's super attractive or even just like decently average attractive, maybe online dating isn't for you. Maybe you need to do some things to improve your appearance, or maybe you need to do some things with your profile to highlight other attributes you bring to the table. Maybe you need to really hype up various interests that you have so you could find somebody with mutual interests. Maybe you need to really hype up that you love to travel and you're adventurous. Maybe you need to hype up that you're very funny and play that up. There are other ways that you can get attention. But ultimately, when I hear people complaining about this, it's again because there's like this naivete where they don't want reality to be reality. They don't want looks to matter. And the fact is, they just do. The other thing about online dating, and this is the one that I do give some credence to, is that it is really hard to sift through all those options. It's often hard to tell who you'd actually be attracted to. One of my main issues I had with online dating is that I would often think a person looked attractive in their pictures. Most of the time, they actually did look like their pictures. I didn't have any like crazy catfish issues. I think there was just one where he really looked very different than his pictures. Most of the time, they looked similar, but what I couldn't gauge is like actual attraction, because actual attraction is so much more than looks. And when you meet somebody in person, you can very quickly ascertain, like, do I have chemistry with this person? Am I actually attracted to them as a person? Whereas with online dating, it's very difficult to tell. So due to that, I went on a lot of dates that were duds. I would say the vast majority of dates I went on from online dating were like first dates only, because I could tell from like one dinner pretty quickly if I was actually interested in somebody and moving forward. But many people do have horror stories. Pictures can be deceiving. I think that's really wrong when people put up photos that are not accurate representations of who they are, or especially like who they are now. You know, when they use old photos, not cool. And like, what's the point? You're gonna like do all of this for what? To get to the date and have them be disappointed because you don't look like your photos? Like, you're just playing yourself. Put up your real photos. Another thing that I thought was really annoying on those apps is how little effort most men put into them. The vast majority of men on these apps put hardly any actual information about themselves. They'll even like not put that many photos up. Like, the effort is on the floor. And that makes it really difficult to tell if you actually are interested in somebody or if you want to pursue them, because it is a time investment. Swiping is a time investment. Chit-chatting once you have a match is an investment. Getting to the first date is an investment. Showing up is a time investment and a financial investment oftentimes. And so it's really hard to get excited to do all of that when all you're seeing is like a picture or two or a generic answer on somebody's portfolio. I know this might come as a shock to some men, but most women do not want to date you just because you're attractive. In fact, if anything, if I see a guy who's super attractive and they put no effort into their profile, I just assume that they're either really dumb and one-dimensional, or I assume they're a total player. Either way, it would be a left for me. I also hear people talk a lot about how hard it is to get a conversation going. This is not the fault of the app, by the way. This is not the fault of the companies. This is the fault of society, and men and women not doing a very good job of showing up as potential partners for one another in general. I do pretty much my entire other show weekly on here, Histrionics, on these subjects because I think they are so vital and so interesting at the moment. But it is frustrating when you do get a match on one of these apps, how little effort many people will put into actually making conversation. It really does seem like many people are just looking for an ego boost, or they have zero social skills. I'm not sure which one it is. The apps can't solve that for you, though. You do understand that, right? It's not that these people just have so many options and are just like in an addictive, like scrolling, trying to get as many likes as they possibly can. It's that they are deficient. They don't have the skill set to move a relationship further. That would be true if they met you offline as much as it is online. So the moral of the story here is, yes, there's some downsides to online dating, but one, it's not that hard to be aware of them and work around them. And two, you can get better at it. They often have many filters you can set so that you're not having to sift through endless people. You can be more discerning in who you accept. You can make sure you have rules where you don't waste too much time with things that aren't panning out. I did many of these things. And of course, those are like specific to me, but as a whole, when I was looking at profiles, I was not going to swipe right on somebody who smoked because I don't smoke. I also wasn't going to swipe right on somebody who didn't drink because I do drink. I had more meaningful things I looked at as well, like whether or not they wanted kids. I did pay attention to height because I am tall. I'm 5'7". I tried to see what kind of work they did because that's something that matters to me. I wanted to know what kind of schedule they might have, if they had the same lifestyle as me. I would also look to see if we had any similar interests because that's important. And then I definitely looked to see what their faith was. Anybody with no faith was a no for me. And mostly I looked to only date Christians because that's my faith. So that right then and there can get rid of the vast majority of people you're coming across. Even once I had matches, I also would not spend too much time on any single one. If somebody was engaging and interested in conversation, then I would return that conversation. But if they, kept it going for more than a day or so and weren't trying to move it to a date, I unmatched them. I don't have time to sit around and text you all the time. I have friends. I have a job. I have lots to do. I get absolutely nothing out of an endless back and forth texting situation. So if they didn't immediately ask for a date pretty early on, I unmatched. If they didn't ask for a proper date, I also unmatched. I'm not doing my hair and makeup and taking an Uber and putting in all this effort to come meet you for coffee. Absolutely not. And again, I want to clarify, this is for me, right? People have different preferences, different things they like, different amounts of effort they're willing to expend, but you can set those guardrails for yourself and you're going to have a better time online dating if you do it. There are a few more actual complaints I've seen leveled at how these apps operate, so let's roll this video to get into those.
Video of a girl talking about how she had to delete Hinge, the dating app, because it was affecting her confidence.
I've heard so many people complain about Hinge now, and I have the answer. It might make you feel a little better, but let's talk about how Hinge is literally the worst dating app on the market right now. First of all, this previous creator is talking about a complaint I think we've all had with Hinge, where are all the attractive people? It just feels like we're never getting any really attractive matches, which is weird because when you go on Bumble or Tinder, right, it's a completely different story. You're getting matches, they're all there, you can see them. So it's like, do attractive people just not use Hinge? And no, they do, but there's a reason they hide them. Similar to this creator and many girls and boys I've spoken with, you're just not getting as many matches on Hinge as other apps. But my friends and I have noticed that we get more roses and paid matches on that app than any other app. So it just doesn't add up. Why would people be more willing to pay for us to be matched there instead of free? And many of us have noticed they keep the most attractive members behind this paid rose wall on this little section at the bottom of the app. Now, if you're doing the math, which I know we're beautiful people, so that's hard for us to do, that means that Hinge is keeping you hidden behind this rose wall as well. And they're forcing people to have to pay to match with you because Hinge does not care about finding you your soulmate or someone to go out with. They just care about taking your money and also keeping the attractive people locked away and trapped on their app as long as possible. But also don't fall for them trying to force you to pay the most expensive subscription prices out of any of the apps. It's getting insanely priced, but back in the day when it was $10-12, I decided to try it for 1 month to see if it would be any better at all. And I found that it literally wasn't any different despite the fact that they're constantly advertising it as the best way to use their app. So what is the point of me giving you that money if it's not any better?
So wait, I am confused. Hinge is blocking all the good people, all the attractive people behind their paywall, she says. But then in the same breath, she says she paid for the paywall and it wasn't any better. So which one is it? They're blocking all the good matches from you because they're greedy capitalists that don't want you to find love, or there's no difference when you pay for their features. Again, these are choices. You don't have to pay Hinge. You don't have to use Hinge. There's 50 dating apps. Take your pick. Pay for it or don't pay for it. If you don't like the services, don't keep paying for it. This is not a crime being perpetrated against you. The main complaint I seem to be hearing from people here is that allegedly there is this paid version of these apps that operates better than the free version, and how dare they? How dare you have to pay for these services to be improved upon? They're already offering it to you for free. And then they're offering you a better version if you want to pay for it, but you don't have to pay for the better version. I don't understand like the complaint here. Seriously, this is deranged. Like, do people understand that before online dating, if you wanted these kinds of services, they were called matchmakers and you had to pay for them? Right? Like, you have to pay for them. A lot of money, actually. Usually matchmakers tend to be very expensive. In fact, this data I found says that hiring a professional matchmaker costs anywhere from $1,000 to well over $100,000, and some even have a 7-figure price tag. These people seem to think they're like owed attraction or love or matchmaking services for free, and that this company should be so invested in ensuring they get the right product and shouldn't care about the money they make at all in the whole process. Like, newsflash, you couldn't afford to buy this service before these apps came around, and even if you could have, they might not have taken you, because matchmakers tend to prioritize people who are like pretty high value. They either want people who are really wealthy or successful or very attractive or very interesting. They weren't just taking rank and file people. The masses weren't in the matchmaker service pool, but they are on Hinge and Tinder. I also notice people saying like it hurts their confidence when they aren't getting the matches that they think they should be getting. And what I think is interesting here is that they're not saying they're not getting any matches, right? They're not saying that basically you have to pay for these services to get any matches. No. They're saying that you have to pay for the services to be able to see the people that you deem are most attractive, that you think are the most desirable. And they're upset that they're not being given these matches for free, or that these people aren't just flocking to them. And I honestly have to say, my instinct is you probably need a reality check. You might not be getting the matches you think you should get because you might not be operating in reality. You might not be in the same dating pool you think you're in. And that's okay. Maybe you need to like examine some things. Oftentimes, same thing if like you're trying to get a job that you really want and you don't get it. If you're wanting to get a certain kind of mate and you're not really finding that they're mutually interested in you, maybe do some self-evaluation and see. Maybe there's things you could do to improve yourself, or even just to improve your marketing of yourself, how you're presenting yourself to be more attractive to those people. Or maybe you do need to lower your standards a little bit. Regardless of those factors, though, there's nothing wrong with designing an app that's enjoyable to use and that makes people want to spend more time on it. Like, are they supposed to do the opposite and make it a horrible experience for you, where you just can't wait to get off of it? Trust me, the individuals themselves are doing that work for them. It's not the fault of Hinge and Tinder that they made the app functional and decent to use. Literally, all of social media is designed with that in mind. It's meant to keep you scrolling, to keep you consuming, to keep you interacting with the app. That is the business model. If you don't like the business model, don't use the business. If you are going to use it, you have plenty of tools at your disposal to limit the amount of time you spend on there. This is called self-discipline. For the record, a Match Group spokesperson denied the allegations in the Valentine's Day lawsuit and said it was ridiculous and had zero merit. And he went on to say, our business model is not based on advertising or engagement metrics. We actively strive to get people on dates every day and offer apps. Anyone who states anything else doesn't understand the purpose and mission of our entire industry. And again, like, there's nothing to back this up. Just because they want you to pay to access better features and to have a better experience on the app, if they're actually providing better experiences on the app, then you are more likely to meet somebody and get off the app. This is not something that's going to like keep you on the app long term. And if it's not working for you, then you need to stop and ask yourself why you keep going back and doing something that's not producing results. But I don't think that's the case. I think it is mostly producing results. I think it is a better service than the vast majority of other options out there. I think these people largely seem highly entitled. And ultimately, what they want to do, it seems, is ruin a product that, again, is working for the vast majority of people who use it. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. If you like this video, don't forget to check out others in my series, Hannah Explains It All, here. And you can watch my other weekly show, Histrionics, here.